Hello, my name is Rachel Rolfs, and I'm at the law offices of Rachel Rolfs and Associates. We're a family law firm in Tacoma, Washington, serving Pierce, Thurston, and South King counties in the areas of family law. This video today is going to help you complete the parenting plan. This parenting plan is required in any Washington state case that requires a parenting plan. It could be a petition to establish residential schedule / parenting plan. It could be a divorce with children. It could be a parentage case that is going to establish a parenting plan. This is the same plan for any of those cases. You will need additional forms to get any of these cases done, so this is just the parenting plan. As always, this video is not intended to act as legal advice. It's intended to help you properly complete the forms, but the advice of an attorney is highly recommended to ensure that you know your rights and obligations. All right, so what you're going to do first is you're going to go to Google, or I guess probably any search engine, and you're going to type www.courts.wa.gov/forms/. Hit enter. You're going to go to the court forms page, scroll down to family law, and again, you can find this parenting plan in several areas, but we're going to go under divorce. Click on divorce, just that's the easiest place for me to find the form. Going to scroll down almost all the way to the bottom, and there's FL All Family 140 Parenting Plan. There it's available in Word for this W or in PDF. I'm going to go ahead and use Word. It's a good idea just to use Word and type everything in, and then your document is clean and ready to go. But however it works best for you, feel free. So I'm clicking on Word, open the document. And here is the document. I'm going to enable editing. I'm not going to fill out the form because you don't need to watch me type too much, but I'll try to kind of select the areas and run you through. As in every court form here, you're going to put in the county in which your case is. So you're going to type in Pierce or Kitsap or King or whatever you've got there. Petitioner. The petitioner remains the same throughout the case. So whoever is going to be the petitioner filing the petition on your matter is going to be the petitioner here. The other party is going to be the respondent. The case number, if you are filing this parenting plan at the same time as your petition, if it's an initial case, if it's not a modification of a parenting plan, if it's an initial case, you may not have a case number yet. You get the case number when you file the petition, again, unless it's a modification and you're filing in under a previous case number. So if you don't have a case number yet, that's okay. You'll get it when you file the petition. You'll fill it in then if the court doesn't do that for you. If you already have a case number, you would put this case number in prior to filing. Section 1, this parenting plan is. So with a parenting plan, you need a few different parenting plans throughout a case. Normally, you start with your proposed parenting plan when you file your petition, and that's your initial proposal. So if you're doing that, you're going to use the proposed box and you're going to put your name here as the person proposing this parenting plan. At that point, it's not a signed court order, it's just a proposal. If this is your final, if you're doing your final orders and you're ready to have the court sign them, or if you are doing a temporary hearing and this is the one that the court has ordered and is going to sign, or if you're doing an agreed final order or an agreed temporary order. So pretty much if a judge or commissioner is going to sign this order, then you're going to check the court order box. And then you're going to designate whether it's a temporary or a final order. And if it is a final order, you're going to designate whether this changes the last final parenting plan. So if you're doing a modification of a parenting plan, you're going to check this box when you get this entered as a court order because you already had a final parenting plan that you're changing. If this is your first parenting plan ever, and this is your final order in this case, you just put this one, but you don't check the change box. And if it's just a temporary order, you just check the temporary order box. Section 2, children. You're going to list children's names and ages. Section 3, these are reasons for putting limitations on a parent. If this is your proposed parenting plan, you are going to put in whatever you believe to be appropriate. If the court has already made an order on the parenting plan and you're just trying to do an order matching what the court says, and this goes for the whole rest of this document. If you've already had a hearing and the court says, I want you to do this in a parenting plan, you're going to do whatever the court said. If this is your proposed parenting plan or an agreed parenting plan, you're going to do whatever you want to do. So I'm going to assume just for the moment that you're going to do what you want to do, because if the court's made an order, you're clearly just going to have to do that. So 3A here deals with abandonment, neglect, child abuse, domestic violence, assault, or sexual offense. If neither parent has either of these problems, if everything's fine, decent parents, nothing scary, you're going to check this box and you're going to move on to 3B. If someone does have a problem, you're going to check this box. Parent has one or more of these problems, and then you're going to go through and fill in whichever sections are appropriate. Abandonment. If there's an abandonment issue, you're going to check that box and you're going to put the parent's name and say that they intentionally abandoned a child. Same thing, neglect, substantially refuse to perform parenting functions, put in the person's name. Child abuse, same thing. You can check boxes here under child abuse, whether it was physical, sexual, or repeated emotional abuse. Domestic violence, again, the parent's name that engaged in domestic violence. You'll note that there's an RCW here. If you have questions on what that means, you can go to Revised Code. If you Google search Revised Code of Washington, it will come up with the laws and you can click on RCW 7 and click through and find that RCW to read that. Assault, again, the party's name or someone living in that parent's home. So if there's a step parent, you would still put the parent's name, not the step parent's name. And then that follows through there. Sex offense, again, kind of just read through these boxes. If it applies, go ahead and check it and fill in the parent's name. Section B, this has kind of some additional things that you can fill in addition to or instead of, I shouldn't say instead of, fill them out if they are appropriate. Section B, again, you have the option to say neither parent has any of these problems. If that's the case, check that box and you move on to number 4. If anyone does have one of these problems, you check this box and then you check the appropriate box and put the parent with the issue, put their name in there. Section 4 is limitations on a parent. So you'll note here that, so if you listed nothing in section 3, if you said does not apply in section 3, then section 4 is also going to be does not apply. In order to put any of these limitations on under section 4, you have to have a basis listed under section 3. So if section 3 does not apply, you're going to click does not apply here and you're going to move on to section 5. If there are problems up there, then you have some options. You have no limitations despite reasons. So maybe you put up here that someone has a history of domestic violence, or maybe you say someone living in that parent's home has a history of domestic violence. But let's say that domestic violence happened 10 years ago and it was perhaps alcohol related, and now the alcohol issue has been resolved and there's been treatment, therapy, and counseling, and you're no longer concerned and you don't think that they're going to be a danger to the child or engage in any other domestic violence in the presence of the child, then you can check this box, no limitations despite reasons. And you're going to explain why. You're going to say, this parent had a history of domestic violence, but it was a long time ago and it was alcohol related and the alcohol issue has now been resolved. And, not a danger to anyone or the child at this time. And then you can just skip on to section 5. If you do want limitations, restrictions, this is where you put them. You check this box. Again, always check the initial box. If you check these boxes, but you don't check this box, it causes problems and confusion. So always check the initial box that applies. So you're going to put the parent's name that the limitations apply to, and you're going to check everything that you want here. So you can say no contact with the children if you believe that there needs to be no contact. Limited contact as shown in the parenting time schedule sections 8 through 11, or limited contact as follows. So 8 sections on this limited contact as shown in the parenting time schedule 8 through 11. Those are the normal parenting schedule. So you could put this in here, and we're going to discuss this further, but you could just put a limited schedule under here. You'll still say when it is, but maybe it's like daytime visits only, something like that. So if you're going to fill out that whole schedule, then you can just say limited contact as shown in 8 through 11 below. In addition to that limited contact box, you can also come down here and you can do supervised contact, And then you can also do evaluations and treatment. So you can still give them a visitation schedule and still add these things in. Um, Another option is to do limited contact as follows. If you're doing a very limited schedule, if you're not going to give holidays and things like that, if it's just going to be like, every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. supervise, you can just put that here. Um, that's hard to do in a final parenting plan. Generally, doing this is if there are significant problems and significant danger to the child. If you think that they're going to end up with kind of a normal parenting plan with holidays and things, it's generally, if you do this here, it might save you some time later. Then in addition to, so again, if you are limiting, then you check this box, and then you're also going to, if you want, supervised contact. So you'll check the supervised contact box. You'll say who's going to pay for the supervision. You can say supervisor will be, you can choose a professional supervisor. You can choose a non-professional supervisor. Generally, the non-professional supervisor isn't going to get paid. If you choose a professional, you need to be sure to say who's going to pay it. Dates and times of supervised contact will be as shown in the parenting time schedule. So this is dates and times of supervised contact. Again, it will be anything that you put in sections 8 through 11 below. So if you put the schedule down there, that means all that contact will be supervised. Or you can say as follows, and you can put in when the visitation will be. This visitation should be the same as this up here. You don't want two different schedules in here. So if you have to list the schedule twice, make sure it's the same. Specific rules for supervision, if any, you might want to say, must be in line of sight, or must be in the same house, or must be within hearing distance, things like that. Other limitations or conditions during parenting time, if there's anything else, maybe you're not doing supervised contact, but there are certain things that you don't want the parent to do, you could put that here. Also under this section, you can do evaluations or treatment. Now, this is a new section box. If you look up here, it is in line with these. So again, if you do does not apply, you don't do anything in the rest of this section. If you do no limitations despite reasons, you don't do anything in the rest of this section. You can do limits or conditions. So we just discussed, you can do this whole section, and you can do this section, or you can just do one of those two. So kind of just, if you don't want the section, if it doesn't work for you and you don't need it, don't check the box. If you do need it, check the box. So evaluation or treatment, this will be the person who needs to get the treatment, must be evaluated for. So this could be drug and alcohol issues, it could be mental health, it could be domestic violence, any of those things. And then you can say start or continue and comply with treatment if you want them to do that as recommended by the evaluation. You can say as follows and say what sort of treatment you want. Normally, it makes sense if there hasn't been an evaluation yet. Normally, it makes sense to say as recommended by the evaluation, but if you have reason to believe that something specific is needed, by all means, if you want to put it in there, go ahead. You're going to want them to provide a copy of the evaluation compliance reports. Normally, you would say to you and to file with the court. And then this section, if this person does not follow the evaluation or treatment requirements, then what happens? So you can say visitations are going to be suspended. You can say you need to bring it back into court and see what the court wants to do, whatever you want to happen there. Section 5, decision making. So this is who can make major decisions about the children. If you look here, you get to make day-to-day decisions when they're with you, including decisions about safety and emergency health care. So these are non-emergency decisions that we're dealing with here. Usually, if there are no limitations or restrictions and no concerns, normally the court is going to make these joint. If there are limitations and concerns above, you may want to do limited. If you're going to do limited, you're going to check the limited box, and you're going to type the person who's going to make the decisions in that box. And there are other sections here. You can add in other things. Some common things people add are extracurricular activities. Sometimes people add like getting a driver's license. Sometimes people add tattoos, things like that, body piercings. you can kind of add in whatever things you need to do. And what this section means is you guys can't make a decision unless you agree to make it. As far as school, educational, and healthcare, generally the status quo would continue. So if the children already have school or already have doctors, primary care physicians, etc., they're going to keep those. They're going to stay in that school. They're going to keep those doctors unless you guys agree to make the change. Section B, if you are going to do joint decision making and there are no reasons for limits up above, you're going to say no reasons to limit and check this box, and then you're going to move on to section 6. If there are problems in 3A above, technically decision making must be limited. So 3A is this first section. You'll remember section 3 has 2 sections. It's got the A, abandonment, neglect, child abuse, DV, assault, or sex offense. Those are the must section, section A. Section B, may harm. So section B, you can still do joint decision making if there are section B problems. But if there are section A problems, technically you're supposed to do sole decisions. So if you have 3A, you're going to check the major decision making must be limited, and you're probably going to have sole decisions up in here. So you can do major decisions should be limited. You can be sole if you both agree that there shouldn't be joint decision making. If you both agree that one of the parents should make certain decisions, that you don't need to show that anyone's a bad parent or anything bad has happened or scary. You just can agree to that, and that's fine. Or you can say one of the parents doesn't want to share decision making and it's reasonable because of. One of the reasons that a parent can say it's reasonable to not share decision making is that section 3B above. The history of each parent's participation in decision making, ability and desire to cooperate with each other when the distance between the parents' homes makes it hard to make timely decisions. Sometimes if it's a long distance plan, if there's a big time difference, or if previous communication shows that you guys can't work together, those are kinds of reasons that you might want to try and do sole decision making under this section. Section 6, dispute resolution. So you've got some options here. I'm just going to say the most common option here is you're going to check this box to say dispute resolution provider, and this is what you have to do before you bring it back into the court. The most common thing to choose here is mediation, and to say agreed upon family law mediator, or you can say Pierce, well, if this is a Pierce County case, whatever county you're in, you can find a mediation center or a mediator and just put their name in there if you want that person or that center to do it. Here in Pierce County, there's Pierce County Center for Dialogue and Resolution. It's a pretty low cost way to do it. They have sliding fee scales. You don't have to have attorneys, etc. So we often put that in. Arbitration is another option. Counseling is another option. If you're going to select, well, arbitration, you're probably not going to want to select unless you've talked to an attorney about it. Counseling, if you're going to do that, sometimes it's questionable then how many sessions you have to have. Like if the counselor says, I think I can help you and I need to see you for 10 sessions, you can't go into court until you follow that process through. So if you guys have a family counselor that you trust and think is going to be really helpful on these things and you want to do that, it may not be a bad idea. But if you don't already have someone set that you trust and know will do what you need them to do, mediation is generally the choice that probably 98% of these people make. Oops, I just messed up the form. Well, just ignore that. There we go. Also, you can choose just court without having to go to mediation, arbitration, or counseling. That's okay. You can select that box, but normally the court really wants you to do mediation. So you can select it, but there's a good chance the court will make you add mediation back in later, unless there are domestic violence or some reason why you guys just really shouldn't be near each other. So assuming you select mediation, arbitration, or counseling, then you move down here to section B. You have to say how notification will be. You can do certified mail. You can do other. Most people at this point just say other and just say email here. Then how you're going to pay for the mediation. The two most common ways to do this, you put your name, you put respondent's name, are either 50-50 is the most common. That's kind of the preferred way. But if there's a big disparity in income, sometimes you will check this box and say based on each parent's proportional share of income from line 6 of the child support worksheet. if you don't have a child support worksheet right now, that can be hard. But that kind of makes it so that you are each paying a portion kind of proportionate to your incomes as they relate to each other. This as decided through the dispute resolution process, unless you're doing arbitration, that one doesn't make sense. Mediation, they don't say who's going to pay, they just assume it's 50-50 unless someone says otherwise. So generally, we don't use this box. Custodian. Custodian is, you're going to list the person. This is normally the person who has the child at least or more than 50% of the time. Technically, you're supposed to select one person here, but if you're doing a 50-50 parenting plan, oftentimes people do put both names in here and you say that you are joint custodians. That is not the intent of the section. The section is supposed to be one person. Washington State doesn't really say custody. This section is only for the purpose of state and federal statutes, which require a designation. Even though one parent is called the custodian, this does not change the parenting rights and responsibilities described in this plan. So again, it's supposed to be one person. Often you can get away with two people if it's a 50-50 plan, at least in Pierce County. I'm not sure about the other counties or whether they kind of care or not. So now we're down here to the parenting time schedule, and you're going to say, again, if there's a limited schedule only, and this, it's a little bit redundant to the above. If there's going to be no contact with the other parent, absolutely no contact. You're going to say the children live with who they live with and no contact with the other parent, except as way back up here in section 4. So if you're going to say the, where is that? If you're going to check this box, limited contact, as follows, then down here, you check that box, the limited schedule only box, and then you skip down, you skip sections 8 through 11. If you didn't do that limited schedule, you're going to check this box here and say complete the parenting time schedule in sections 8 through 11. So this is by far the most common, is to go ahead and complete sections 8 through 11, unless you have a parenting plan with a parent that is very dangerous to the children and very, very limited. You're going to need to complete sections 8 through 11. So section 8 is the children under school age. If all the children are already in school, you click does not apply and you skip down here to section B. If there are children under school age, but that schedule is going to be the same as the children in school, you can check this box and skip down to section B. If all the children are under school age, then you are going to check this box. Children are under school age are scheduled to live with. You're going to put the name of the person that they are with most of the time. Or if it's a 50-50, you'll just put one of the parents and say, except when they're scheduled to live with, and that's going to be the other parent. And then you're going to check all that apply. So if you're going to do every other weekend, let's say the other parent gets every other weekend, you're going to check this box, you're going to check the every other week box, and then you're going to fill this in. And I don't want to make you watch me try to deal with these forms too much here, but you do Friday at, and it's kind of a weird thing. I just kind of delete that out and say 6 p.m. to Sunday at 6 p.m. And then if there's also going to be a weekday, you're going to check this box. And let's say the weekday is going to be every week. Let's say it's, so then you would check the every week box. And then you would do, let's say it's Wednesday. Wednesday at, you could say Wednesday after school, or 3 p.m. if no school, to Tuesday, return to school, or 8 a.m. if no school. That's not perfect formatting there, but I just want to kind of show you some language. If you're doing something like a 50-50, you can do something, you can check this other box, and you can do week on, week off, with exchanges on Sundays at 6 p.m. Other options you could do, well, there are a million other options. You can do with mom every Monday, Tuesday overnight, with dad every Wednesday, Thursday overnight, and then you alternate Friday through Sunday overnights. Lots and lots of options. Whatever option you choose, just make sure that how you type it, it's really clear what it is. If this section up here doesn't make sense for what you're trying to do with the weekends and weekdays, type it into the other section. You can also put it in this other, it doesn't really matter which one there. School age children, you're going to say the schedule. So if you've got children under school age right now, the school age schedule can be the same, which actually, if it's going to be the same, you are going to also check this box. So school schedule is the same as for school age, and then you're going to fill this out. And then for school age children, if it's going to be different than what you've already put in here, you're going to say when it's going to start. Is it going to start immediately for the school age? Or if they're not in school age yet, is it going to be when the youngest child enters kindergarten or first grade, or when the oldest child enters kindergarten or first grade? And then again, you're going to say who the children are scheduled to reside with most of the time, or if it's 50-50, pick a parent, and then the other parent goes down here. And then same thing, you're just going to fill it out with what the schedule is going to be, either by using these with all the check boxes or checking the other box and typing in what it's going to be. Section 9 is the summer schedule. Summer, of course, is a little different. So you can say summer begins and ends according to the school calendar. That's the most common. If you're doing school schedule before the children are in school, if you still want to do a summer vacation schedule with different visitation, you can do as follows. And you could say you can like list the school calendar that you want to use, even though the kids aren't in school. You can list the district calendar that you're going to use, or you can put dates in. And then you could say once the children hit school age, it'd be according to the school calendar. So you can kind of just explain what you need to do there if it isn't easy to do with check boxes. You can say the summer schedule is the same as the school schedule. Option 1. This option is summer schedule is the same, but also each parent gets uninterrupted vacation time with the children each summer. Probably the most common we see on here is about 2 weeks. If you're doing a 50-50 plan, be careful with this. If you're doing like a week on, week off, and you give someone 2 weeks in the summer, kind of figure out how that's going to look for you, because if it's your week and then he chooses his, I'm just going to assume for a moment that I shouldn't, but I'm just going to assume for a moment. So let's say mom has a week and dad wants to take his 2 weeks time. Dad's going to take one of your weeks, one of mom's weeks, and then he's going to have 2 weeks. So he's going to take mom's week, but then the next week is his week. Does that mean he's only taking one of mom's weeks, or is he taking mom's first week, and then his week, and then mom's next week? So figure out and make sure that you know exactly what that means if you're doing a 50-50. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense to do the weeks in the summer if you're on a week on, week off already. If you're doing a 50-50 and it's not week on, week off, it can be easier and make more sense, but just think through how that's going to look. Grab a calendar and look at it. If you're going to do a couple weeks in the summer, you're going to confirm your vacation schedules in writing by the end of this date. Usually it's April 1 or May 30, somewhere between April 1 and May 30. And what I like to fill in here is to say, in the event of a conflict in dates, mother's dates shall prevail. If you've got 2 mothers or 2 fathers here, just list the parent's name. Ex-parents' dates shall prevail in even numbered years. And ex-parents' dates shall prevail in odd numbered years. And then that way, if you're selecting the same dates in one year, it says who wins, and then the next year, the next person wins. Summer schedule is different than the school schedule. The summer schedule will begin the summer before. So this section is if you want to do a completely different schedule in the summer. Sometimes people will have one parent be kind of the primary parent during the school year, And then the summer schedule, the child will be primarily with the other parent. It's also really common in a long distance parenting plan that the parent that has a child during the school year has them most of the time during the school year, and then the child spends most of the summer with the other parent that lives farther away. So this is where you would do that. Summer schedule is different. Summer schedule begins when, and then you're going to say what the schedule is going to be in the summer. So it um, might be maybe the children are normally with parent one during the school year, and then maybe in the summer going to be with parent two. Don't say parent two, say the parent's name, or say mother or father, or however you want to designate who each person is. Don't just say parent two, because the court won't know who is parent two. And then except when they're scheduled to live with parent one. And then often here, especially on a long distance parenting plan, you'll just see something like a child to spend 6 weeks of each summer with parent two, and the remainder of the summer with parent one. Now I'm typing this, but this actually isn't a great thing. This doesn't say when, so even better would be something like the child to spend the first 2 weeks of summer vacation with parent one and the last 2 weeks of summer vacation with parent two. Oops, sorry, with parent one, and the rest of the summer with parent two. So something like that. Oops, undo. So what that does is it essentially gives the parent that normally has, all right, just ignore my formatting issues there. It gives just whatever you want to do on these is okay. Just make sure that it's clear what you're trying to do, and make sure that it makes sense for the children's schedule, for the parent's schedule, and make sure that you have start times and end times, start days and end days. Not having those things can cause really big problems and a whole lot more litigation, which nobody wants. Section 10. The holiday schedule is the same as school and summer schedules, or the children are going to spend the holidays as follows. So the second section, of course, is the most common. You really only do the holiday schedule is the same if you maybe have a 50-50 plan and you just want them to fall where they fall, or if you have a very limited parenting plan where one parent doesn't really see the children. So normally you're going to check this box and you're going to set these out. I'm going to this can take forever to run through this section. So I'm just going to be really fast and just say, look at it, check this box for every holiday that you want to be dealt with. If you don't check the box, then it's not dealt with and it just falls where it falls. So check this box, put when it begins and ends. So MLK, that's usually a Monday holiday. Do you want this holiday to begin on Friday and end on Monday? Or do you want it to be just Monday? And then option 1 on these is odd years with one parent, even years with the other parent. That's one option, a very common option. Just keep in mind that if you do that, it's going to be either the whole weekend or just the day, depending what you put here. So look at a calendar and see how that's going to look, because given your other schedule, your normal schedule, if you just have an every other weekend schedule and one evening during the week, it's pretty easy to do these. If you do something a little more complicated, or if one parent has most weekends and the other parent has mostly during the week, it can be messy. Or every year with, if you want to say the same parent gets it every year, that's fine. You can say with the parent who has children for the attached weekend. If you have an every other weekend parenting plan, this one makes a lot of sense and is very, very common. And then if you do that on here, up here for the day and time, it would be if visitation on that weekend ends at 6 p.m. Sunday, this would run from 6 p.m. Sunday to whatever time on Monday you want it to end, and it would just go with the attached weekend. So it would just extend that parent's weekend. Or other plan. You can make something up and do whatever makes sense. And that's essentially the same for all of these. Spring break, well, okay, that's about the same for the 3-day weekends. Midwinter break, some schools in Washington have them, some don't. If you put it in and there isn't one, it doesn't matter. If there isn't one, it just doesn't, nothing happens. So don't worry about that. Spring break. you're going to put the begins and ends. I usually put in here begins the day school lets out and ends the night before school resumes. I would put a time. And odd years. So if you do odd years and even years, then you get that whole break. Sometimes people make it just from Monday to Friday instead of including the weekend. So then it doesn't affect the weekend visitation. It just affects during the week when the child's actually out of school. So kind of whatever your preference is there. You can give it to one parent every year. Often in a long distance parenting plan, the parent that doesn't have the child most of the time often will have these just to make up some time. You can do one half of the break. If you have an every other weekend schedule, it makes a lot of sense to do this where each gets the half of the break attached to their weekend, and then you do the exchange on Wednesday. So whoever has the weekend before gets the child through Wednesday. Whoever has the weekend after gets from Wednesday through the end of their weekend. Mother's Day is almost always going to be with mom every year. But of course, or if you have two moms, then you're going to say who gets what. Memorial Day, again, another 3-day weekend. Father's Day, again, normally with dad, if there's only one dad. If there's more than one dad, usually even odd. 4th of July. So 4th of July, you want to be careful because that's going to fall during the summer schedule normally. So whatever you do with 4th of July, just keep in mind that if it is one parent's summertime and it is the other parent's 4th of July, depending how you write this, that parent might have to give the child back to the other parent just for the 4th of July and then take them back for the rest of the summer. If that's okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure you think of these things as you fill out this schedule. Labor Day can also fall during the summer, so keep that in mind. Thanksgiving Day break, again, you're going to put when it begins and ends. You can do just Thanksgiving Day. You can do the whole break. You can do part of the break. You can do whatever you want. Okay, you've got options for odd years, even years, every years, or some other random plan. Winter break. And so winter break, you have a couple options here on winter break. Winter break can include, there's an option here under Christmas Eve and day to follow the winter break schedule above. There's also that same option. Oh, they removed it. Sorry, they modified. Oh, here it is. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. They also have the same option to follow the winter break schedule. So you can do a winter break schedule that says who gets the children on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day if you make the winter break schedule long enough to do that. So if you do from the day school lets out until the night before school resumes, generally that's going to incorporate those. You don't have to do that though. You can do a winter break schedule and then you can do separate for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So what that means is let's say you make this break go from day school lets out to the day school resumes. And then you say odd years with parent one. And then let's say for Christmas Eve, you give odd year, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Let's say you make this Christmas Eve and Christmas Day together. You can do them separate or you can do them together. So if parent one has odd years for the whole break and parent two has odd years for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, parent one is going to give the child to parent two for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, then they go back to parent one for the rest of the break. That's one option if you do these separately. If you just incorporate these into this, then whatever you put for this is the plan for the whole break. A lot of people like to split the winter break in half. So it's really common to do the first half of winter break with parent one in even years and the second half in odd years. So one year, one parent gets the first half of the break, and the next year, the other parent gets the first half, and so forth. So lots of options there. But again, be sure to put when it starts and when it ends. All 3-day weekends not listed anywhere else. You can say with the parent who has them for the attached weekend, you can say other plan, or you can just not address it. If you don't check this box, it's not addressed and it falls where it falls. Now, as you might notice, these are all kind of just like the basic Western holidays. You can add other holidays that are important to you. Any other occasions or holiday important to the family, you can add them in. If you have more than this to add, you can copy and paste, just make this bigger. Just make more options and fill them in. Paste. So just do what you need to do to get what you need in there. Conflicts in scheduling. So normally you would check this box that says named holidays are followed before school breaks. So that's where when I said the 4th of July, if it conflicts with summer, 4th of July would win if you check this box. If you put in children's birthdays, so that's up here, these other occasions, you can also put in children's birthdays, parents' birthdays, whatever's important in there. Children's birthdays before holidays and school breaks. If you have children's birthday that falls on a school break or something, you need to decide what you want that priority to be. Other, if there are going to be any other conflicts, you can set forth in here how those are going to be handled. Transportation arrangements. Children will be exchanged for parenting time at each parent's home, school, or daycare when in session, or another location. You get to select where these are going to be. Sometimes it's a little more complicated than this, like you can say school or daycare when in session, but then when it's not in session, each parent's home, or you can do another location, like we're going to meet at the McDonald's on 72nd, kind of wherever you want to meet. The picking up parent or the dropping off parent who's arranging for transportation. So the parent who's about to start parenting time picks up. This is probably the most common one, but sometimes people have the dropping off parent drop off. Other details, use this section. If it isn't simple and easy here and you've got to do something a little more complicated, put it in here. Just be real clear. Section 13, moving with the children. Section 13 is statutory language. It needs to be here. You don't get to mess with it. So read it, be familiar with it, but don't touch it. Section 14 is for other. You had the limitations and restrictions sections up at the top where you can talk about valuations and treatments and things like that. And those are kind of for the big, scary, not important, but the big scary things. This is other things. This can be the children shall be permitted to contact the other parent at any time. You could put in the parent that doesn't have time with the children shall have telephone contact with them, at least every 2 days. You can put in neither parent to drink alcohol in the presence of the children. You can put all the warm, fuzzy language in here that you want. You could say you guys are going to respect each other's parenting styles. Anything else that pertains to parenting that you need in here can go in here. You can say that if anyone is going to get a roommate or have a significant other move into the house, that they're going to provide full names and dates of birth to the other parent ahead of time. You can say if anyone's going to take the children outside the state of Washington, there's going to be an itinerary. Anything else that pertains to parenting can go in here. A lot of people put absolutely nothing in here, and a lot of people put in like 35 things. So do whatever makes sense for you. Again, as we discussed up at the top, proposal. If this is a proposal, you're going to check this is a proposed parenting plan, and whoever's requesting it signs name and then signs the city and state in which they're signing. If you're both agreeing to this, you can both sign it and put the city and state. If it's going to be a court order, if the court is going to sign it, then you don't need to do that part. You just check that and you don't need to sign here. Court order, again, if it's a proposal, then this does not apply. It's a proposal. If it's a court order, then you check this one that says it's a court order. Don't really worry about that. Findings and conclusions, don't really worry about that. The judge or commissioner is going to sign here. Here, you're going to check whether it's an agreement of the parties on both boxes. You're going to check who's presenting it. So if you're the petitioner and you are presenting this, you'll check presented by me. And if you're the respondent and you have an agreement, you'll check that may be signed by the court without notice to me. And of course, that it's an agreement. And this is just if there are additional people involved or a guardian ad litem. So that is it for the parenting plan. I know that was a lot. You'll probably have to pause and go back. But I hope you found it helpful. I do encourage you to speak to an attorney in the county in which you're filing your case to answer any legal questions you may have and understand your rights and to understand what checking some of these boxes might mean for the rest of your case. If your divorce is in Pierce, Thurston, or South King County, you're welcome to contact my office to schedule a consultation. Our number is 253-572-5845, extension 1. Thank you for your time.